Hello class, my name is Jake Roberson, coming to you live from my living room here in colorful Colorado Springs. Going to be talking about Charles Sumner today. Charles Sumner was the firstborn in his family, and he was born in Boston, Massachusetts in January 6th of 1811. His father was a lawyer there, and then Sumner himself, as he grew up, was a bright young man. He himself actually went to Harvard and graduated from there in 1833 and went on to try to become a lawyer like his father. But it was several years later that he actually began to make waves. In his younger years, he developed these morals and ideals that later on in life brought him a lot of attention, a lot of fame, particularly his views about slavery. He was very radically anti-slavery. In 1849, he, along with some other founders of the Free Soil Party, challenged legality of segregation in Boston schools. That was one of the first big splashes he made. And then in 1851, he really got his break when he was elected as a senator for his state and went to Congress, where he became the face and the voice of the anti-slavery movement there. He was very outspoken. He was very unabashed in his style of politics. He didn't back down from anyone. He was he said it like it was, or how he saw it, and that actually once led to his being beaten to the point of unconsciousness. In 1856, a South Carolinian congressman named Preston Brooks, after he gave a speech, apparently he offended Mr. Brooks and was then beaten. He had to take a couple years off, but he did come back, and right in time for the lead into and the Civil War itself. And during the war, he was very adamant still about the elimination of slavery, the rights of African Americans. He in fact clashed many times with President Lincoln on this issue. Even though Lincoln was anti-slavery, even though they were both that way, they both were very much in support of human rights and rights for the African Americans. It was their approach that was really the big difference, in that Lincoln was more mellow, more conservative, more of an integration type mindset, and Sumner was very aggressive, very forward, wanted all or nothing. But they were really good friends, and they had a lot of respect for each other, and their personalities, although very different, really brought both sides of the anti-slavery movement together in a big way. After the Civil War, he continued to be very oppositional and controversial. He was very much opposed to President Andrew Johnson, and actually led the charge in the impeachment of Andrew Johnson, but then really started digging himself into an early grave with President Grant, and when he was criticizing him for not fighting harder for African American civil rights. And as a result of that criticism, he was removed from his position on the Foreign Relations Committee that he'd been on for a while. Sumner finally died in March of 1874 when he suffered a heart attack. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have gotten to read about Charles Sumner at all. He, as far as I know, is not very well known. I hadn't heard of him until I did this. But in his time, he was a very staunch and unwavering advocate for the abolitionist cause and the rights of African Americans in the United States. And even though his abrasive style really turned a lot of people off, his passion, his dedication really garnered a lot of respect during this time from those others that supported that cause as well. And like we were talking about a little earlier with Lincoln, it was his style really counterbalanced Lincoln in a great way. That laid back, honest Abe style to the fiery style of Charles Sumner. All right, well, I thank you all for listening to my presentation, and I hope you have a great day.